A 49-year-old Colorado mother of two vanished on Mother's Day in 2020. Bizarre clues helped to bring the case to an end. Suzanne Morphew grew up in Alexandria, Indiana. She met her future husband, Barry Morphew, in high school. He grew up in the same town as her. Suzanne was popular and well-liked at school, and Barry was a star baseball player who was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays. The couple began dating after Barry graduated high school and got married in 1994. Barry started a landscaping business, and Suzanne was a school teacher before she decided to leave her job to raise their two daughters, Mallory and Macy. When the kids were older, the Morphews moved from Indiana to a home just outside of Salida, Colorado, to be closer to their older daughter, Mallory, who was attending college nearby. But there were also rumors that the move was an attempt at a fresh start for Suzanne and Barry's troubled marriage. Early in the morning on May 10, 2020, Barry left their home to drive to a job site that was 150 miles away in Broomfield, Colorado. The couple's daughters, who were away on a camping trip and making their way home, texted their mother, wishing her a happy Mother's Day. But Suzanne did not respond. Becoming worried, Mallory informed her father that they are unable to reach their mother. Barry eventually spoke to one of their neighbors and asked them to check on Suzanne and to see if her mountain bike is at the house. Mountain biking is a new sport that Suzanne started recently. When they found no sign of her or her bike, Barry asked them to call the police. Barry did not go home immediately. He first stopped at a hotel where he booked rooms for himself and his co-workers to drop off a shovel and some other tools. He only drove home just after 6 p.m. While on the search for Suzanne, the police body cam footage showed Suzanne's mountain bike after being discovered by sheriff's deputies on the side of a cliff off a road near the family home. No clothing, blood, or evidence of a struggle were found near the bike. A few days after finding her bike, the investigators recovered her helmet about 1 mile away off the side of Highway 50. Her sunglasses and hydration backpack were found inside her car, leading the investigators to surmise the scene may have been staged and that Suzanne never really went for a bike ride that Mother's Day morning. Local and state authorities, along with the FBI, CBI, and civilian volunteers, conducted a large search effort across vast and rugged terrain. A scuba diver even searched a local waterway as news of Suzanne's disappearance shook the community and eventually the entire nation. After discovering that the couple had marital problems, suspicion fell on Barry. 10 days after Suzanne was reported missing, the investigators found a spy pen in a walk-in closet in the Morphew's master bedroom. They learned that Suzanne got the pen, which is voice-activated and records conversations, hoping to catch her husband Barry in an affair. Instead, she inadvertently recorded conversations she had with her secret lover. It took 6 months for the investigators to identify the man behind the voice on the recording. It turned out he had a wife and 6 children in Michigan where he lived. He never came forward on his own after Suzanne vanished and took steps to hide their affair. But once the agents came knocking, he cooperated and provided access to his DNA, phone records, and passwords for deleted accounts. The investigators were able to verify his alibi for the day Suzanne disappeared, and he was cleared. On May 9th, the day before Mother's Day, records show that Suzanne and her lover messaged each other 59 times, leading up to the moment the investigators believed that Barry took his wife's life. At one point, Suzanne messaged her lover a selfie, which the investigators dubbed her last proof-of-life photo. On the day of the disappearance, Barry, who was not at home, sent Suzanne a text at 2:26 p.m., telling her he was on his way home. With no response from her, Barry texts her again asking, "Did you leave?" and again was met with silence. The investigators believe that Barry returned home soon after, ended Suzanne's life, and cleaned up the crime scene. If Barry knew nothing about Suzanne's affair, what motive would he have had to end her life? One clue may be a deleted text that investigators found on Barry's phone, sent by Suzanne just days before. The text read, "I am done. I could care less what you are up to and have been for years. We just need to figure this out civilly." The investigators found a dark vertical crack along the doorframe of the couple's master bedroom. They also discovered a clear plastic needle cap for a tranquilizer dart in the Morphew family's dryer. And they found the tranquilizer gun in the home. The investigators showed Barry a photo of the damaged doorframe, explaining the prior owners said it was not there when they sold the house to the Morphews. Barry was asked if that was the result of an argument or him being locked out. He said, "I have no idea what that is from." The investigators believe Barry may have damaged the door as he tried to get to Suzanne after shooting her with a tranquilizer gun. Barry's cell phone records appear to show his phone pinging all around the house on May 9th. When asked about this unusual phone activity, Barry told the investigators that he was running around the property shooting chipmunks, which Barry says were a constant nuisance. However, the investigators believe this unusual phone activity could be Barry chasing Suzanne around the house after shooting her with the tranquilizer gun. The authorities said that Barry told them he went to bed around 8 p.m. on May 9th, but his truck's computer shows the truck was put in reverse and backed up towards the house around 9 p.m. On May 5th, 2021, Barry was arrested and charged with first-degree slaying, tampering with evidence, and attempting to influence a public servant. However, in April 2022, the prosecutors dismissed the charges without prejudice, preserving the option to refile in the future. Barry filed for a $15 million federal lawsuit in May, claiming that his constitutional rights were violated during the prosecution. His two daughters showed their support towards him throughout the whole ordeal. Suzanne's body remained missing, and the case went cold. Until September 22, 2023, when human remains were found during an unrelated search in Moffett, over 40 to 50 miles south of Salida. An autopsy revealed that her cause of demise was intoxication, revealing a cocktail of animal tranquilizers with no visible trauma on her body. The substances found in her blood was commonly used by Barry in deer farming, and he was the only local person with access to these substances. The prosecutors believe that when Barry arrived home the afternoon of May 9th, he went into the garage, took the cap off a syringe used to load a tranquilizer dart, injected the dart with a chemical, and shot Suzanne. Though they failed to find a working tranquilizer gun or tranquilizer chemicals in the couple's home, Barry told the investigators that he had no idea how the cap got in the dryer, but admitted he was an experienced tranquilizer dart gun shooter and knows how to load darts with paralyzing chemicals, having used them to illegally sedate deer and remove their antlers to sell. Barry's defense lawyers counter this cap means nothing because no one could say how long it had been there. Furthermore, they say there is no evidence tying the cap to their client. A slew of text messages between Suzanne and a close friend in the months and days leading up to her disappearance reveal the Morphews' marriage remained rocky. In one text she writes, "I feel no peace when he is here, and I would not feel safe alone with him." These are just a few of the texts showing Suzanne's anguish and concerns about her husband, Barry. On March 25, 2020, Suzanne texted her friend, "He will not speak of divorce." On June 20th, 2025, Barry was indicted again on first-degree charges. He was rearrested in Arizona and is being held on $3 million bail. He was extradited to Colorado to face charges. Barry continues to maintain his innocence. No trial date has yet been set. Charges have been filed by a cold case unit established regarding a 2016 cold case involving a missing and slain Indigenous person. George David, a 65-year-old man from Port Alberni, British Columbia, that was living in Nia Bay and member of the Clayoquot Indian Band of Vancouver Island, was found bludgeoned till his end in March 2016. George was an accomplished woodcarver. His life was ended while spending the night in Port Angeles, Washington State before he was supposed to take the ferry to Victoria the next morning for a tribal member's funeral. According to his daughter, George had recently sold a piece and was carrying hundreds in cash. He was staying in his dentist's office building, which had a furnished basement. Video footage showed George arrived in Port Angeles as planned, and he texted his daughter that he arrived. That was the last time she heard from him, and he never arrived at the funeral he was planning on attending. George went to Port Angeles bars and was seen in Tina Marie Alcorn's company that night, before the two were picked up by a cab. Tina became a suspect in the case. She was allegedly captured on gas station video footage buying cigarettes before getting back into a cab that drove them to the dental office. The next morning, several calls and texts were made from George's cell phone. Texts show a person identifying as Tina used the phone to text a man asking to purchase illegal substances. Other texts show the person offering a laptop and webcam for sale. George's phone was never found. That same day, surveillance video at a Walmart allegedly captured Tina going to a hair salon and cutting her long hair very short. The hairstylist later told the investigators that she saw the woman had several $100s in cash when she paid, and she told the stylist she was going to turn herself in regarding an auto theft warrant in Arkansas. The stylist also told the police that Tina had scratches on her face. Video footage at the Walmart captured the woman buying a pay-as-you-go cell phone with cash. The following Monday, the dentist entered the basement expecting George to be gone, but instead, he found George, lifeless inside a folded-up sofa bed. The mattress had bloodstains at the foot and head of it. The police found that George had several blunt force wounds, and blood had pooled near the head of the mattress, indicating that he was lying on his back when he was bludgeoned till his end. The police also found a wrapper for a pipe wrench. The dentist told the police that he had bought the pipe wrench but never used it and stored in the basement's utility room. The dentist also said that a laptop, backpack, and Wi-Fi router were missing from the apartment. The day after George's life was ended, Tina stayed overnight with someone she had texted from the phone. The man she stayed with told the police she left some things in his apartment, and the dentist identified the items recovered as his own router and backpack. The person Tina had texted for illegal substances told the police that she had tried to get him to buy a laptop off her. About a month later, the volunteers picking up trash along a creek found a wallet with George's identification and no cash in it. Tina Alcorn was arrested and interviewed in April 2016 in Mount Vernon on an outstanding arrest warrant from Arkansas. Her DNA was collected, and she denied ever having George's cell phone. She was taken to Clallam County Jail, but was later extradited to Arkansas and incarcerated for violating the conditions of her probation on an unrelated felony conviction for theft. The Port Angeles Police Department identified Alcorn as the chief suspect. In 2016, the Clallam County Prosecuting Attorney's Office rejected the recommendation from law enforcement to charge Alcorn with slaying. The prosecutor told George's family members there was not enough evidence to charge her at the time, and the case went cold. 8 years later, in 2024, the Port Angeles Police Department, which conducted the initial case, reached out to the Cold Case Unit for assistance. The department conducted additional evidence investigation and DNA analysis. The analysis determined blood recovered from under George's fingernails matched Alcorn's, and a DNA profile on a cigarette butt at the scene and on the pipe wrench wrapper also matched Alcorn's. On June 3, 2025, 55-year-old Alcorn was arrested in Arkansas, and she arrived in Washington on June 9th to face charges. She is charged with second-degree slaying and remains in custody at Clallam County Jail on $1 million bail. A woman's remains found more than 50 years ago in the woods of Marlborough, New Hampshire, has finally been identified. Now the investigators want to know exactly what happened to the victim and how her remains ended up there. On April 16, 1974, the unidentified remains of a woman were found in a wooded area off Route 124. The detectives believe the mystery woman had passed away in the late fall of 1973. The investigators determined the woman was between the ages of 18 and 48, was between 5 feet 2 and 5 feet 6, with reddish-brown hair. The victim was wearing a light brown corduroy coat with white fleece lining, a warm-up jacket, a plaid flannel shirt, off-white work trousers, brown low-cut work shoes, and mismatched socks. She had no identification on her. The case went cold for many years. After almost 5 decades, in 2021, a woman named Nancy Gale Erickson was reported missing by her family to the police in Brattleboro, Vermont, representing the first time she had officially been listed as missing. From 2022 till 2024, forensic testing was done, and finally in July 2025, it confirmed that the unidentified remains found in Marlborough in 1974 matched the DNA of Nancy's siblings. Nancy was born in Bayshore, New York, in 1951. She grew up in Elmira, New York, and earned a nursing degree from Corning Community College. In 1972, she moved to Tampa, Florida, to join her mother and siblings, working as a nurse at Tampa General Hospital. In 1973, she abruptly left Tampa with a duffel bag and no known destination. Her siblings told the investigators that they believed the emotional toll of her nursing work might have led to her sudden departure. On October 2, 1973, Nancy was arrested in Bellows Falls, Vermont, for stealing a car from nearby Putney. According to a 1973 news article, she told the judge that the car had run out of gas, and she was headed to visit friends in White River Junction. She received probation, remained in Brattleboro, and worked at the Brattleboro Retreat while living at the community house. Her family said that they recalled receiving a call about her arrest, but were unaware of who she might have known in Vermont. On October 30th, 21-year-old Nancy abruptly left her job and her residence and was never heard from again. New Hampshire State Police Detective Sergeant Kelly LaPointe said in a statement, "After years of work on this case, putting a name to Nancy Gale Erickson is incredibly meaningful. It is more than solving a mystery. It is restoring her identity and honoring the life she lived. She was never forgotten. We are deeply grateful to everyone whose efforts made this possible." Now the focus turns to understanding how and why she passed away. The authorities are asking anyone who might have known Nancy to contact them. They are looking to speak with former employees of the Brattleboro Retreat, people who lived at the community house in 1973, students who attended Corning Community College in New York between 1971 and 1972, and staff members at Tampa General Hospital. Anyone with information can call the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit tip line at 800-525-5555 or submit a tip online. A beloved father lost his life in a brutal way. Thanks to DNA testing, the perpetrator has been identified. Stephen Kilwein moved to Bozeman, Montana in 1986. He lived in a red and white house located on the corner of 9th and Mendenhall. His 5 children adored him, describing their father as a funny and kind soul. But on June 13, 2021, the Kilwein family grew suspicious after not hearing from their father. They called 911 to perform a welfare check. Tragically, the responding officers discovered Stephen deceased inside his home. 2 days later, an autopsy was performed in Billings, and the medical examiner determined his cause of demise to be slaying, and noted the man had endured multiple chop-style injuries. The Bozeman Police Department detectives then initiated an investigation. During the initial crime scene sweep, they located an Apple iPhone in Stephen's front yard. The detectives then determined that the phone belonged to Austin Klaus. Later, when the detectives interviewed Austin, he reportedly claimed it was his cell phone. Call detail records were analyzed by the FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team, which showed Austin's cell phone to be in the area of the crime between approximately 12:15 a.m. and 1 a.m. on June 13, 2021. A neighbor told the detectives that they heard some noise over the weekend, one early morning around 2 a.m., describing the sound as possibly 3 people having an argument or talking loudly. The neighbor then reportedly heard what sounded like something falling and making a sharp noise, after which the neighbor heard someone say, "Oh shit." A detective interviewed Austin to find out why his cell phone was recovered in the front yard of the crime scene. He said that he was walking in the area of the crime scene and must have lost his phone. He told the detective that he was drinking in downtown Bozeman on the night of June 12th into the early morning of June 13th. He reportedly told the detective that he wanted to go home before his friends, so he started walking toward Kimball Avenue, where he was staying with friends. Austin allegedly stated that he would provide a voluntary DNA sample but changed his mind the following day. On September 9, 2021, the detective received a phone call from Austin, who reportedly said that after speaking to his family and consulting an attorney friend of the family, he was declining to consent to a buccal swab and fingerprinting. According to the family and the community, the case then went cold. However, in November of 2021, the detectives conducted a trash pull from Austin's home, retrieving a water bottle for DNA testing. The water bottle was submitted to the Montana State Crime Lab for analysis, which was able to obtain a DNA profile from the water bottle. DNA was also collected from Stephen's fingernails and pajama bottoms. The analysis revealed that the mixture of DNA obtained from Stephen's pajama bottoms matched to the water bottle. On July 10, 2025, 25-year-old Austin Klaus was arrested and charged with the 2021 case of 79-year-old Stephen Kilwein. Klaus was charged with deliberate slaying and is being held on $1 million bond after appearing in Gallatin County Justice Court. Klaus is set to appear in district court on a date yet to be determined. If found guilty, Klaus faces life in prison. A newborn girl was found fatally stabbed and dumped in a trash can in Franklin, Indiana. 31 years later, the baby girl's parents have finally been identified. On April 13, 1994, two juveniles searching for recyclables while they were walking home from school found the body of an unidentified newborn girl in a trash can at Temple Park in Franklin, Indiana. An autopsy revealed that the baby girl had been stabbed till her end shortly after her birth. She had multiple stab wounds, and it was ruled that her life was ended. The officers that were investigating the case named the girl Baby Hope. With the help from the community, they collected donations to provide a funeral and a headstone for the infant. The investigators pursued leads for years, which took them nationwide, but they found no parents, no suspects, no information, and the case went cold. The case was officially reopened in 2019. With new eyes on the case, the investigators hope to bring this case to an end. On July 14, 2025, the Franklin police announced major new developments in the 31-year-old case. With assistance from the Indiana State Police Crime Lab and advanced support of DNA technology, the investigators utilized genealogy to identify the baby's biological mother. She was identified as Cheryl Dawn Larson. At the time of the baby girl's demise in 1994, Cheryl and her then-husband lived near Temple Park. Cheryl passed away in 2018 and could not be interviewed. The investigators determined Cheryl's then-husband was not the baby's biological father. The detectives spoke with her family, friends, and neighbors from 1994 and positively identified Paul Richard Shepard as Baby Hope's biological father. Paul has been cooperative with the investigation, and upon learning he was the baby's father, he chose to name her Hope Shepard. Franklin Police Lieutenant Chris Tennell said, "While we remain deeply saddened by the tragic and unjust loss of Baby Hope, we are grateful to finally achieve some degree of closure after 31 years. With Cheryl's demise, the investigators were not able to determine more on her level of involvement in the baby's end. Franklin PD said formal charges will not be filed at this time, but that could be reconsidered if new information emerges. Johnson County Coroner Mike Pruitt said that the investigators are still asking anyone with additional information on the case to come forward to help provide complete closure to the case. The official shared a statement on the behalf of Paul, saying that he was shocked and grieved to learn that the child known as Hope was his child. He was completely unaware that Cheryl, a woman with whom he had a brief relationship with, was pregnant with his child. He first became aware that the child was his after voluntarily providing a DNA sample to the police. The shock of this revelation was overwhelming and continues to be so still today. Paul continues to struggle with the grief which has exacerbated his health conditions and from which he can find no relief. The very thought that a child fathered by him was subjected to such evil is one he cannot escape from. He has no answers which shed any light on the case of his child and no relief from the grief he endures from the unknown.